What's up, everybody? It's the Poorly Edited Podcast. We're here in Josh's attic. It's the show where we put a spotlight on some of the most creative minds we can find as best as a couple college kids can do.
Not very well.
Not very well. The spotlights are much brighter today. We have really good lights in here today, more than usual. But we're here with Michael Patrick Owen of Mojo fame.
Mojo Talent, yes.
Mojo Talent.
Yep.
How are you today? Do you like
quite
Josh's
well.
Keurig coffee?
I love Josh's Keurig coffee. Yes, it's quite good.
What K-cup did you use?
The Dominican?
We're doing a lot of product placement today.
Yeah, massive product placement.
Massive
Absolutely.
product placement
yeah,
today.
massive
Big
product
spot
placement.
today.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, can you tell us a little bit about Mojo Talent, about everything that you're a very multi-talented, multifaceted, very well-traveled, there's so much we're going to be able to talk about today. And I don't know if you have any way you want to bring that in.
Well, sure. So, in meeting you guys, this was at the Fade In, Fade Out monthly meeting at Two Rivers Brewing Company. And I was very glad that everybody came.
It's a great meeting.
One of the things that we have tried to do with FIFO is establish a true film consortium. Whether you're a student, whether you're a novice, whether you are coming into the environment, into the film arena of producing shorts, independents, music videos, whatever type of programming or content that you want to develop, this is an arena where you have a warm welcome. I was sort of trial by fire when I got into the production side. Interesting story. My next door neighbor was a dental tech.
Okay.
And I was in LA. I'd been in LA for 3 days. And she said, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm an actor and I work on films and whatnot. And she said, do you need a job? I said, yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. It would be a lot better than like waiting tables or bartending, So I said, yeah, actually. And she goes, well, I have a friend who is a gang boss, transportation captain. So I went, okay. Does your friend know of any jobs? So she calls him, and I get the message to show up at 6 a.m. on that Friday. And this is tomorrow morning. It was Thursday. Need you on location at 6 a.m. I'm like, okay. So I had been in the U.S. Army in the service, and 6 a.m. is truly 15 minutes to 30 minutes beforehand. So I arrived at 5:40 in the morning. Yeah. And it's myself and this other man standing there, and I say good morning, and he goes, hey. And that was it. That was the extent of our conversation for 20 minutes. And then around 5:57, people start showing up. At 6 a.m., exactly 6 a.m., he steps to the front, and he goes, good morning, everyone. My name is Tom Gehring. I am the crew chief and the gang boss for this production. He pointed to me and he goes, you, come here. He goes, okay, everybody else, bye. I won't tell you what he really said, but he basically told everybody to go pound sand. Yeah. And he goes, what do you know how to do? And I said, I've worked set decoration in theater. I've done rigging and fly systems for stage shows. He goes, have you ever rolled film? And I said, no. He goes, well, you're going to learn today. And I said, okay. So I was a second AC camera loader on Sphere. I was set decoration and set design for Face Off and Gods and Monsters.
Yo, that's awesome.
So it was really trial by fire for me.
And is that because you showed up so early? It
was because I showed up.
Yeah.
Because what I lacked in knowledge,
you had in the
commitment. I had more than made up for in enthusiasm and a go-get-em spirit. Yeah. And so he was willing to work with me in a capacity that nobody else would. And so, again, what I didn't know, I was gung-ho. I was like, I'm going to go in, I'm going to put 100% to this and try and make this happen. And so for that, by the end of the second day, the camera crew that I was working with, second unit, they thought I had been rolling 35 millimeter canister film for years.
Wow.
Because it became a process. It was like, okay, you spool it, get it in the can, label it, take it over to Video Village, make sure that they have it marked and logged.
Yeah.
Boom. And by the end of the second day, you know, I was on it because I had a desire. I had a thirst to want to be able to do this. And so transitioning back to FIFO, that's part of what we have tried to make it, where it's not a bunch of professionals getting together and saying, well, I'm so fabulous because I worked on this shot or this show or whatever. It's how can we make the Lehigh Valley more film concentric? And we've seen that. We've seen that within the last few years. Daniel Roebuck with Getting Grace. He'll be doing production on Hail Mary next year. Jerry Rowe is mounting a small production called Righteous Among Men.
An amazing script.
Script.
If he lets you read it, it's absolutely amazing.
really
I'm
good.
first AD on it.
I've read it twice.
Yeah,
So you've read this
so I read the script a number of times.
I'm so excited for that, and he's already reached out for us to be a
It's
part
a good
of it.
script. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
So, but what we're seeing is there's a lot more of those opportunities that are coming to play within this area. And it's not weekend warrior type stuff where I'm going to run and gun and I'm going to put my camera on my shoulder and I'm going to film a bunch of odd stuff. It's something that is actually coming together with pre-production, with planning, and utilizing the resources, not only of the umpteen colleges that are within the area, but the natural decor and the natural scenery that we have here. It's beautiful. I mean, you can go into downtown Allentown and shoot an urban scene, drive 10 minutes down MacArthur and be in the middle of farmland.
Yeah.
From a cost perspective, that's amazing because you can't do that pretty much anywhere else. You can't do that in New York City. You have to drive a minimum of 40 minutes outside of Manhattan.
That's true.
It's amazing to me that more productions they're not done here in the Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania because
can answer that. So Philadelphia and Harrisburg and Pittsburgh usually are the hot spots. The film office for the state is located there. Philadelphia obviously has their film office, and Pittsburgh has done a tremendous amount for the Ohio Conservative and also for the Pittsburgh area because they're utilizing the resources that they have. I think one of the reasons that we have not seen film production here is because there was not a film office to be said for within the last 3 to 4 years. The film office that was in the Lehigh Valley prior was almost part of the tourism board. It wasn't really considered a film office. And so if somebody needed something, where can I find an old car? Where's an old mill?
Right.
Can you direct me to there? There was an individual to do that. When she retired, no one took over the position. The office dissolved.
Oh, wow.
And so we've been for 3 to 5 years without a particular film office. I think that's where FIFO has stepped in. They are not a film office, but as a consortium, people have reached out and they said, oh, call these guys.
Yes.
They'll be able to help you out. And as it was, Danny Roebuck had contacted myself, Bill Harton, John McBoyle. It was the four of us.
In 2015,
In 2015, September, October of 2015. So we're out running through cemeteries in Bethlehem and old historic area of Bethlehem filming.
And you guys put it together quick.
Yes.
Every little thing, he was like, I need this huge production. And it was put together. You guys didn't have a ton of time, but because of the wealth of knowledge that FIFO had, it was all put together very beautifully, very, very quickly.
Yeah. So we've tried to pass that on to other projects that come to this area or anything that anyone is mounting. And I'll make this point. I'm going to say this to the camera. As a FIFO member, try to remember that if you have a solid project and you want the resources, we're not going to just up and pay for it. But if you come to us with a solid script, planning, pre-planning, pre-production, then the resources are there and the people are there to help assist you in getting that made. So that's my plug for FIFO.
Do you think that, so going back to, you getting that gig with your go-getter kind of attitude towards things, have you found that, that person put you on for having those qualities and having that drive? And have you found that as you've progressed through the industry and as you've been working in this field, that is the right call every time to make on a person?
Absolutely.
And when it comes to talent scouting, when it comes to all these various things?
Absolutely, 100%. Because I did not go through formal education or training to be a filmmaker.
Do you think it's a bad misconception that you need that formal education, that you can't just work your way there? Or do you think it's a balance?
I think there has to be a happy balance. What has hurt me is not having the formal training. What has helped me is my passion and my drive. And what I lacked in financial funding to go to a 4-year program or a 2-year program, I was able to, knock on wood, to be able to find it on YouTube or Vimeo or some platform where I could just ask somebody. There were times where I couldn't find anything on how to balance cardioid, omnidirectional miking within a room with no carpet. Okay, not something you would really find on YouTube 3 years ago. But I called a guy and he said, okay, here's what you can do. You got an Euralex? No. You got an old carpet? Yes. Okay, great. Hang it on a wall. You're going to position it this. And he went through the steps. So what I lacked in education, I've more than made up for in the go-get 'em attitude. But again, and we've had this discussion before, there is so much out there that is available to anyone. Not all of it is great. I'll be the first to say that. There's some really bad advice out there on a lot of things. But the information is there. Where the educational component comes in is that you have an environment where it is safe and you have access to cameras, lighting, audio equipment, things of that nature that you would not normally have in just an open market scenario.
That's something that we've been researching and getting into more, is especially in the past 5 years, how education has changed and how the availability of education has changed, even in terms of business, social media, especially in film, and all the different classes and everything that are opened up online. I mean, now all the podcasts there are just about education in the fields that we work in. So how do you approach someone that has no formal education, but they really have what it takes? Like, what would you do for them if they're asking you for help? What would you say their best thing is? They're like, I technically can't afford to get the degree. Do I need it? What do you say? So
I think determining a person's passion, aside from I'm good at this or I've had experience with this, what is your passion? What is it that you want to pursue? And most people will be able to tell you right off the cuff, I want to do this. I want to do this. Sorry, I didn't mean to bang on the table.
Do whatever you want.
I want to do this. And they're able to tell you that within the first 5 seconds of meeting them, if that was a question that you would ask. Okay? So if you take that, you say, okay, I have an interest in filmmaking. Okay, what do you know about filmmaking? We discuss that. Then we get into what is your training? What is your education? What experience have you had? Have you worked on a film shoot? Have you worked on an episodic? Have you worked on a music video? Because they're very different genres. And they're very different pre-planning. Once we've discovered all that, then I can say, okay, are you more of a traditionalist? Do you work well in a structured environment? Are you good in a classroom? Because if that is your forte, then by all means, go the 2-year to 4-year plan, or 2-year and 2 years at primary college if you're low on funding. If that's not, and you are hands-on and you learn visually like I do, then you know what? Here's 10 links that I want you to learn about on everything from reading articles on Premium Beat and Rocket Stock to Envato, trying to go to Cinema Sound and see how they structure a sound room, a myriad of things that come into play. Because not everybody has access to those funds. Not everybody has the ability to go to school. What they do have access to is time. They have access to time. And if they are truly vested in making a difference and they want to pursue this career, they will find the time to do it.
Do you believe in going out there and finding one specific mentor or one or two specific mentors? Or do you believe that it has to be an amalgamation of everything you learn from many, many different types of producers and editors and people working in the industry?
I think it's diversification. If you are... The challenge is that it's always good to study with one lead person, but you start to fall into habits. They may like to cut in Final Cut. You may like to cut in Premiere. They may prefer DaVinci Resolve for color grading. You think that the prolumetry that you have in Premiere and the sound tools that you have in Audition are just fine. Okay? So it's always best to have an amalgamation of professors or teachers or just influences. And if it's something that you really enjoy and they're not on that scale with you, go find somebody that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all really good insight too. I mean, I think it's been a lot of, since we started, I mean, a lot of us went to college for film, but the amount that you're going to learn actually doing things and actually by having that ability to just go and try to learn what you don't know and not rely on only what you've learned in the classroom and having that capacity to self-teach and learn on the job, I think is really important to have those traits,
Since we're talking about school, I mean, all of us learned so many different things at LTRC, not just from like showing up to the class, which is very important, show up to your classes, but being a part of the community on our campus is how we all met. It's how our company started. It's how we learned all the things that we know now. So my biggest thing is like, you've got to join your community out there. And there is a community, especially in the Lehigh Valley, but even people that live in the outskirts and everything like that. It's like, you need to find out not just what's going on in the black and white school or the classes that your community offers, but being a part of things like FIFO and different film consortiums.
That's what FIFO is one of the biggest things that I tell anyone who asks us now, which is weird.
Like to the kids that you've been mentoring.
We talk to at LTRC and stuff.
Can I make a comment about that? So this is why I love 2-year programs. Technology changes every 6 months.
Yes.
Okay. I know. I bought a curved monitor LG for work, 4K capability. It got top reviews. They had just released it 3 months prior. I went back 4 months later and it is discontinued. That's because crazy. Now they have the 6K and the 8K version. Okay. It's the same with what you guys are doing and what I'm doing. Things change consistently. The lighting that is lighting us today, the cameras that are available to us today to film this, we're doing a 3-camera shot with wonderful lighting. Thank you, Jeff. So 2 years ago, none of this would have been possible. No. I mean, it would have been HD cameras. We would not have had 4K capability. We certainly would not have been able to use an app to control our lighting dynamics as to whether we wanted 6500 or 3250. Like none of that would have existed.
And that goes along with the information of it and the education of it. With the new technology, it comes a whole new set of rules, a whole new set of education that you have to learn. And it's like by the time you finish school, everything you learn, it's like a lot of it can be obsolete at times. Right. Yeah.
But I will say this about the 2-year programs that I truly, truly love. I had the opportunity to speak at DeSales. I had the opportunity to speak at Lafayette. And I had the opportunity to speak both at LTRC and Northampton Community College. So I've had 2 4-year programs and 2 2-year programs, okay? The 2 2-year program speeches that I gave and talks that I gave, the students were more in tune with what was going on, knew more about what was happening within the film industry. And we have a friend. Knew more about what was going on in the film industry than the highly profitable, highly cost 4-year programs. I went into a senior thesis directing class and I asked them basic questions and they could not answer me.
Why do you think that is?
Because they are teaching theory. They are not using real-world practicality. They do not put them in real-world situations.
The echo chamber kind of
Yes,
it. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And they're not encouraging you to leave get off campus and do.
Right.
No,
That
they
encouragement.
don't.
You see that encouragement way more in the 2-year colleges and those 2-year
There's
programs.
also a sense of urgency, I think, in the 2-year programs where you're like, you don't have like this 3-year ahead.
You have that buffer
it's
period.
so far away that it doesn't matter. Like you're not even thinking about what's going to happen when you graduate kind of thing. Like when you're in the 2-year programs, it's like tomorrow is going to be the day. You know what I mean? It's so close to where it's going to get real, so fast. Yeah, I feel like that sense of urgency is really
absolutely.
big too.
And I'll give a plug for Wendy Barron.
Yes.
Love you.
We love you.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
When she went over the itinerary and the schedule that you guys have for the 2-year program, it was mind-boggling.
It's a lot. It's
Because
a lot
I
of ground to
went, you're going to teach them this in 2 years? Yeah. And she said, absolutely. Like there was no question in her mind. So kudos to you, Wendy. Love you.
And she's been doing such a great job because she's been encouraging all of her students.
Yes.
She's really, especially lately, really encouraging everyone to get out there and go to the community. And she just started a new group online, which is for all of her past alumni and her current students that are interested in film. She's pushing everyone to go to FIFO. She's promoting we're having the first ever Lehigh Valley Film Festival the beginning of next year. I'm so excited for that.
I'm bummed though because it's only 30 minutes in length that you can submit your film for.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Gotta start small.
Yeah, right. No, that's fine.
Well, maybe 2021. Maybe 2021
Yeah,
we'll add the features.
I'll put it in. Yeah.
They'll add that feature section. But yeah, Wendy's been doing a great job of just pushing everyone and even inviting us, and we know nothing, to teach her students about God knows what. We don't know anything.
But here's the reason why. You're seeing a shift now.
Yes.
Atlanta lost a lot of their funding. Their tax deals that they used to do are no longer. New Orleans did the same thing 3 years prior or 4 years prior. Michigan looked like it was going to be a hotspot, and Cleveland, Ohio was also on the block to be one of the big hotspots. But now you're starting to see Eastern Pennsylvania come into play. We haven't yet crossed that mark because the state, I don't believe, is behind us 100% with the tax incentives.
But they are making a conscious effort.
They are making a conscious effort
They're doing
now
everything that they can. Very recently.
Very
They're doing
recently.
what they can to provide tax breaks to people that are making films in Pennsylvania. However, you have to use pretty much 100% of the resources from Pennsylvania.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
Which is fine because M. Night Shyamalan, when he shot Glass, got a huge tax break.
Yeah.
They just shot a feature in Reading
Really?
at a mental institution.
I think I heard it. Yeah.
And again, same premise. They were utilizing resources within the state, and for the time that they were here, they used Pennsylvania crew, well, Philadelphia crew because it was union, IATSE. But they still use the resources within the state, and they still utilize the state itself, background, location, trucking, transportation.
Which is helping the tourism agency
Absolutely.
as well as providing, getting us more money for the government and all of the tax breaks. I think it just started 2019. It just started, but 2020 and 2021. If you make, I think it's 75 to 85% of your resources come from Pennsylvania, you get a 25% tax break.
It's 30% tax.
Is it 30%?
It's a 30% tax
better.
break.
30%, yeah,
And
that's better.
If it's under a certain percentage, they'll give you 20 or 25. I can't remember. I haven't looked at the final notice.
I think something I've always found fascinating, and I'm sure most people do not at all, and I don't even know why I do, is the whole idea of I love looking at the credits of a movie to be like, where did they film to get that tax break? I always love like looking for it. It's like, oh, they filmed it in Quebec because like they have a really good, you know what I mean? Could you maybe explain a little bit? Because for the people who don't understand maybe how that works when it comes to where you film and where you get those breaks from and why certain things are probably actually filmed where they were because of that, So the tax breaks are based on three components of the state legislative and governmental system. You have your commerce, economic development, and tourism. Okay. So they come in, let's say they film in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, okay? So the money that's spent here on the trucking services, the money that is spent on the amenities,
That's money for your local vendors, okay? The state recognizes that because it also produces jobs for commerce. So now we have jobs that are being supplied to crew, to both union and non-union, depending on the amount of people that they need. Catering services, craft services. There's no union craft company out in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. So
which is what we're experiencing with the Hail Mary right now. We're planning all the craft and everything. And I'm like, how do you guys do this in LA? Completely different.
It's a different scenario because they're set up for that and they know what to expect. And there's sort of a precursor that if you don't know, a production coordinator will send you a template and they'll say, we need this.
Yep.
So I think that's where we're finally going to, which I'm very happy about. But I also realize that it's going to take some time.
That fulfillment looks completely different in Pennsylvania than it would even if you're making an independent film in LA. The resources that they have out there are just going to be different because they haven't had that industry in Pennsylvania just yet.
There's that infrastructure there.
Yeah,
the infrastructure is there.
Yeah.
But as we're slowly seeing within this area, because of the efforts of FIFA, because of the efforts of someone like a Daniel Roebuck.
That infrastructure is growing.
It is growing.
Yeah.
It is growing because now they're recognizing that films are coming here.
And there's a need for it. There's a
need for it. And that we have these wonderful locales where these upcoming students that may be watching this, they have to know, guys, check it out because this is where it's going to be happening. And secondly, there's going to be opportunity. Because again, it's not going to be IATSE union pay. You're not going to be making $10.60 a day. But if you make a couple $100 a day and you're getting the experience of a feature film, kudos. Yeah. I mean, you can,
especially that you don't have to drive to Philly
or to New York,
or to Pittsburgh.
But if you don't mind doing that kind of thing, I mean, compared to 2 years ago, there was so many less resources in groups like FIFA than there are now. But if you're willing to drive, like if you go on meetup.com, which I've been looking at a lot,
there's a lot of resources.
So many film groups and short groups and small movies and groups like that meet up every single week towards the kind of Conshohocken, Philadelphia and New York area. If you're willing to travel for your craft, if you have that time, if you have a good car, like I would say, join other film groups.
That's why the FIFO group is so necessary, is because without that infrastructure, without a group that is rooted in that community that can bring everything together and be that network out, it's very difficult to get anything going.
This podcast is sponsored by Relevant, a location-based mobile network personalized by your interests. Customize your newsfeed to consolidate all the information you care about all in one place to quickly and easily find what's relevant to you. Find out what's going on in your local area and reach your community from the palm of your hand. Relevant is available on iOS and coming soon to Android. Be the first to know with Relevant.
And there were other film groups that were within the Allentown, Lehigh Valley area that I think their purpose was, we're going to shoot our small project, indie film, music video, whatever the case may be, and that's it. A lot of what that did not provide was the educational component, the networking atmosphere. And if you were not part of their group, you were not on the project.
We just talked about that. People that they're not as welcoming for you to be a part of many different groups. Like FIFO, they're like, if you're a part of so much stuff going on in Lehigh Valley, that's great for you. Other film groups are like, it's us or the highway. It's us or you have to get out.
And that's a sad state of affairs because then, you cut your nose off to spite your face kind of thing. It's like, if you limit yourself and you only use the people that are within your circle, you can't ever grow.
Yeah.
The beauty that we have is being able to invite a film expert. We had a gentleman by the name of Rich McCarr who came out about a year and a half ago, and he spoke. He owns Buttons New York in New York City. They produced the original sound and full audio component for the Pac-Man series.
Nice.
He's done
awesome.
Hope Floats. He's done, a ton of feature films, a ton of TV shows.
Yeah.
Plus independent films. And he came out to us and spoke to us, and it's just as much of a hustle for him, even after 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
30 years of working in Manhattan. His office is right on 45th, over near Bryant Park. He's got a prime location, okay? but he still has to hustle just as much as he did day one. Because the technology is changing, because there's going to be somebody who has got a little bit more of an edge over him. He has the experience and he has the know-how, but somebody may come in for a lower price point. So there's still that hustle, and he's consistently networking and working with people. And that was one of the things he said. If you're in this industry, you have to network with everybody.
Yeah.
You got to talk to everybody.
You can't limit yourself. I like the whole us versus, or me versus everyone else in like the art scene very often, which I find with especially people who are maybe just starting or that haven't figured out that actually there's way more strength to working with as many people as possible instead of thinking that you're better than everyone and you shouldn't be working with that. You know what I mean? It definitely is I think a key unlock to being able to get exposed to, because I mean most of the stuff we've been able to do is all through networking. You know, it's the people you know, and making those really good strong relationships that are, you know, good relationships where you're helping them and they help you, and you know, it's this give and take
without intention of being like, I'm in a network and when I get there I have to make something of myself, I have to show them something, and then I have to get a job and I have to get money. And it's like, I mean, some people are there, some people are like they're at that level, but networking should be about helping one another, you know, having that symbiotic relationship where you meet somebody and they're doing something that you're not doing that you could really help them with, and they're doing something that they can really help you with. And it's like, that's what networking should be about. It's about helping each other, not just going out there looking for what can someone do for you. It's how can you help other people? How can you bring all of those skills that you have to help the community that you're in, which I think FIFO does very,
especially
very well.
in a scene like this, that's very important to have.
You make a
like
valid
that.
point though about I'm better than everyone else. What I find is not that they're better, it's based out of fear.
Insecurity.
Yeah.
It's insecurity and it's fear. And it's one of the things that FIFO has tried to do, and then I'll stop plugging FIFO. One of the things that FIFO has tried to do, though, is more of a warm welcoming.
It is such a warm environment.
So that when you come in, there's not this intimidation factor of, well, you're with a number of professionals and you're with... Yeah, you know, we try to stay away from that because nobody starts out as key grip. Nobody starts out as DP. Yeah. Nobody starts out as, you know, field engineer for sound. No, you have to learn. You have to learn. And there are things that I still don't know. I'm sure there are plenty of guys that can green screen and key much better than I can. I'm sure there are plenty of guys that can light a 3-point light setup for your traditional photo shoot much better than I can. So I want to find those people, learn from them, apply it to what I know, so that down the road, the next 2, 3, 10 projects that I do, they'll go, wow, look, his lighting is killer. Yeah. Or his camera work is this or whatever.
And FIFO gives you that opportunity to learn those skills, and not take forever to learn it, but to learn them from the right people. And they're not going to ever judge you about you not knowing how to do something.
No, because we've all been in the same place.
Exactly.
Yeah. You can't discredit somebody because they don't know. It's like, well, if anything, I would discredit myself for not teaching them. Hey, I have the opportunity here to teach you something, good, bad, or indifferent. Yeah. Let's try it. Let's test it out.
That's the mindset that we need, because it's not always the mindset that we experience. Us walking into that first FIFO meeting that we went to, I was personally kind of scared.
Me too.
I was
thought
scared.
it was because I like what you described, that stereotypical kind of view of it. That's what I was expecting, and it was the complete opposite. And
it was just warmth and kindness, and everyone was just swarming us like, how are you? What are you up to? We've heard so much about you. And I was like, what?
Just genuine, and the people coming up and talking with such an endearing tone about the projects they're working on and what everyone else is doing,
and the excitement,
just the actual level of interest and investment everybody has, not only in their own stuff that they're working on, but what everyone else is doing. You know what I mean? That was just a really amazing thing to see.
Cool.
I personally like the amount of respect everyone gives each other when someone else is speaking. When somebody else gets up to speak about their project, everyone is just, like you said, very invested, but also incredibly respectful. The amount of respect that comes out of that group is not something you see often. The amount of encouragement and respect and the lack of ego.
Yeah, there's no room especially in this industry, and you guys know this because you're in it every day, there is no room for ego. There is none. Because there will always be somebody better, faster, stronger, quicker, more experienced, more, whatever the case may be. You know, if you enter it with gratitude and you enter it with the mindset of I want to learn something from this, you go much further.
Yeah.
You know, listening to your level of insight that you have, which seems like second nature at this point, but I'm sure it's taken a lot of working to get to that point. I mean, you've done so many things that I actually, you know, I knew a lot about the things that you had done, and then I had read some materials in prep for this show, and I was like, oh, he did even more really cool stuff that I didn't know about. Like those first European tours that you did for Hair and West Side Story. Like I had no idea.
We have to talk about that.
Yeah.
Wait, you did West Side
like,
Story?
what do you mean? Like, it's
okay.
like, so
Oh my
you
gosh,
know,
I really need to talk about that.
clearly you're not just from a film background. You're, you know, very much art and performance and all these other facets as well.
Yeah.
So just I don't even know where to begin. I want
to talk about West Side Story. First, because we have to talk about Hair, but West Side Story is my the second musical that I ever like actually sat down and listened to and heard. It was the most amazing thing in the entire world. So please tell me what you played. What did you play in West Side Story?
So I had the opportunity. Well, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back even further.
Okay.
So
take us back in time.
All right. So my mother was a copywriter. She started working as a copywriter in 1969 for one of the local TV stations, and her and my father divorced when I was about a year and a half. They split when I was about a year and a half old. They didn't actually get a divorce until 72 because of the Vietnam War.
Wow.
Because if he had been divorced, they would have shipped him over.
Wow.
At the time, he got what was called a 3A deferment because he was in college in his senior year. He was married, and he had a child on the way. So those were the three things that kept him out of Vietnam. My uncle was not so fortunate; he got shipped. But so I had my mother's copywriting influence, and as a writer, she's also had the opportunity to work with Alan Arkin.
Wow.
Wonderful screenwriter.
I love Alan Arkin.
She had pitched and was well received by Henson Productions for a short that she wrote called Green Again. One of her songs actually got picked up and was nominated. And so on that side, I had her creative influence.
Yeah.
My father was a session musician, and he used to open for the Dave Clark Five, the Shangri-Las, the Beach Boys, Harry and Nilsson, Sir Douglas Quintet, Brooke Benton, and I think that's it. And then he went to work at Atlantic Records, or a division of Atlantic Records, for a number of years. And then from 1979 to 1989, he was the chief engineer of sound archives at Lincoln Center.
Wow.
And he did all of the mastering of the original Enrico Caruso recordings from the 1920s. And he did their full catalog that they now currently possess. Wow. He remastered, re-edited, and re-audio engineered.
That's
so
quite a pedigree.
You have that in the genes.
Yeah.
You got some good genes behind you.
Yeah, my grandmother was a light opera singer in the 1920s. So I've had this huge history of people who were working in industry.
Growing up around that.
When I was 5...
Is that intimidating?
No. It was funny because when I was 5.5, that's all I knew. So my mother said, "Oh, there's this audition. Do you think you would like to go for it?" I said, "Sure." I had no idea what it entailed. Like, yeah, whatever. And so we go to a kitchen studio, and it was an audition for Arby's.
Nice.
And it was for a national campaign called Whippersnapper Supper Club. It was the precursor to the Happy Meal for McDonald's.
Say that 5 times fast.
I did. Numerous times, yes. Numerous times. And so I got the job. And like some crazy amount of auditions of like 2,000 kids auditioned. Wow. 6 of us got picked. union shoot. I joined the union.
At 5 years old?
At 5.5. Yeah, I became a SAG member at 5.5.
Yeah.
Well, I'm behind.
Yeah. I guess I'm catching up here.
No. But I've never eaten in an Arby's since. I had to choke down 7 roast beef sandwiches
Dude, I hate
that
Arby's.
day.
Yeah.
This is not product placement.
It's
for
not
Arby's
product placement
right
for
now.
Arby's.
The opposite.
We're
Yeah.
not getting sponsored by Arby's.
Well, they already got theirs.
Yeah.
They did it. They
Yeah.
already got theirs.
But the fun of it was a day off from school. It's literally.
It's a very good incentive.
You joining the
down.
union, the fun of that was...
Well, at 5.5, I'm in kindergarten. I'm like, yeah, I don't have to go to this crappy kindergarten. Excuse me, this bad kindergarten, and like I get to hang out.
Yeah.
And it was a great day because we got pampered. We, 2 of the cast members I knew.
Cool.
So it was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
You knew the cast members out of 2,000 people?
Yeah,
The people
because
that got picked, you knew.
Grey North was the company that put it together. They were based out of Chicago. They also have a New York affiliate. They put the whole thing together, and 1 of 2 local gals were 2 of the kids that got picked with me. And so that sort of sparked that. And then I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun doing it. And my mother found that I had a knack for being able to do whatever on cue.
Yeah.
If they needed me to smile, if they needed me to play hurt, or I fell off my bike, or whatever the case may be, I was able to accomplish that. And so that went on from, I did 3 national campaigns from the ages of 5 to 13.
Is that Arby's?
No, Arby's, Southern-based chain called Druthers, and another sort of like the Macy's of the South that was called Stewart's.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we had these national commercials that we did for them. It was a ton of money.
Yeah.
It actually paid for my first car, my first year of college. I actually did go to 1 year of college.
Your parents kept it for you?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, well, it was under a Coogan account. It was under a client trust account.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because it was all SAG-based projects.
Yeah.
I still laugh because the commercial I shot in '81 for Druthers, I was making $1,500 a day as a union talent because I was a featured
And what
artist.
year was this?
1981. I was 13. So
That's a lot of money back then.
lot of
That's a lot of
money.
money.
a tremendous amount of money back then.
Yeah.
I went out afterwards and took 1 day as a paycheck, to go and get a nice pearl kit or slingling kit. Slingling drum set, Ludwig snare, all time
Nice.
hardware, Zildjian cymbals. Like I went to town.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you did that from 5 to 13 years
So
old?
I did this 5 to 13. Freshman year of high school, I auditioned for and was accepted to the 21st or 22nd performing arts high school in the country. John J. LaGuardia was the first that opened in 1958 in New York. The school
Like the
I went
airport.
to. Not John J. LaGuardia, Fiorello High School.
Oh, okay.
Performing Arts High School, Fame.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
Fame School.
Yeah.
Up near Columbus Circle.
Yes.
When they opened, that was, I think, in 58 or 60. But this was the 22nd in the continental United States. And I got in and went to all 4 years there.
Wow.
And developed my singing skills, developed my acting skills, went to jazz, ballet, modern, tap classes.
Do you think that was a completely different upbringing than most of
Oh,
the
God,
other
yeah.
people
Yeah,
of your
yeah,
peers?
yeah. I mean, most of the schools that I would talk to, friends of mine that went to a traditional program, they're going to football games. And the closest thing that they got to any kind of dance program was the cheerleaders. So we had this opportunity available to us in the city of Louisville, Kentucky, where I grew up. And I auditioned, I got in. And this is what I decided that I wanted to do. I left there. I went to the Boston Conservatory of Music, Dance, and Theater at Berkeley for 1 year. Got accepted there. It was godly expensive. And it was a huge waste of time for me personally, because everything that I had learned the 4 years prior, they wanted to reteach me in college. And I said, no. I already know acting 101. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I've done this. So please don't waste my money. And a friend of mine who we built the set for She-Boppin' at the Shubert Theater in Boston, he said, "Why are you here?"
Yeah.
And he was serious.
Yeah.
He was like, "Unless you're going to join on IATSE after this show, go to New York. It was the best advice. God bless him. Ray Leghart was his name. He told me, he's since gone, God rest his soul. But he said, get out of here. He said, I like you, but I don't want to see your face anymore. And so I went to New York. I was in New York for 3 weeks. I booked my first gig. And for 13 years, I was on the road to 33 countries in 562 cities.
Wait a second. Nonstop. That doesn't happen to people. You don't show up to New York and in 3 weeks you're like, all right, I got my gig. I'm set for the next 13 years. That doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't. What did happen was I would audition when I was in Manhattan. We'd finish a tour, about a year. I'd come back. I'd audition for 3 shows or 5 shows or whatever. And I got booked on one. And then by the grace of God, I got booked on 3 years of cruise ships. At the same time, I was doing West Side Story.
Wow.
And what lines did you do?
Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. So I was out of the Caribbean for almost 4 years.
I've been on 4 other ships. They're
amazing. Beautiful. They're amazing ships. They're amazing ships.
Do you remember what ships were you on?
So this is early on. Song of America was my first ship. It's tiny in comparison to what you see now. Nordic Empress, which was a Bahama 3-day cruise, 3 and 4 day cruise. And then Monarch of the Seas, which was a full 7-day. Song of America was 2.
So you were on the smaller lines.
I was on the smaller lines.
You were on the smaller lines.
Monarch of the Seas was the largest line that I did. That's when they started getting into the super ships, where they had all the amenities and everything else that you could possibly think of.
Like Oasis, they have the entire back of the ship just dedicated to performance, aren't they?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So we were sort of the precursor to that. But it was great. I never had to do staff duties. I did my shows, and the rest of the time I'd go onto the islands, and I got certified in scuba diving. I used to go rappelling. I'd go on like crazy Jeep rides through Cozumel, Mexico, and craziness.
If you're not like living underneath the ship and with the terrible positions on a cruise ship, like for what you were doing, that can be really amazing.
It was truly amazing because we barely had any expenses. We didn't pay for any food. My laundry cost me $10 a week. And it was hand delivered to my cabin.
Wow.
Yeah, like it was prime.
Yeah.
And then I would come back to New York. I would audition for whatever was available at the time. And it also helped too because I was coming off of a contract. Be like, hey, I'm a working actor.
Yeah.
And I'm coming off a contract, and so now I have this.
Yeah. You have some bargaining.
I have a little bit more clout, shall we say?
Yeah. I was gonna say cloud.
But literally that lasted until around 96. End of 96, I decided that I wanted to move to LA. A friend of mine was out there. He was the main cat in Cats.
Nice. Wow.
At the Winter Garden when it was still performing. And he called me up and he was like, hey man, I'm in LA. You want to come out? And I'm like,
is he going to be in the new movie?
Is it going to be in the new movie?
Is he going to be in the new movie?
No. No, I haven't seen him since 2000. Yeah. Lindsay Chambers is his name. I see him on Facebook all the time.
So all he had to do is call you up and be like, I'm out in LA. It's pretty cool.
No, we met at this bar at O'Flaherty's when I first met him. And he was back in town. And he goes, are you still digging New York? And I said, no, I want a change of pace. I had a car. He was sitting in New Jersey, and he said, do you want to come out? Sure. And I said, to visit? And he was like, no, to live. So I made the conscious choice that I was no longer going to be a New York resident after having an apartment there for 10 years.
So what made you want to... Was it going?
It was just a new adventure.
Was it going too well in New York?
No. It was just a new. It was just a new adventure. I wanted to try something different, and I knew that I had worked for HBO doing some promos for them, and then when TV Land was introduced onto the network, I did their first opening campaign.
Oh, rad!
What I really enjoyed was the camera work.
Okay.
All the stuff that was going on, and I was like, "Wow, that's kind of cool." Like it was fun to be an actor on it. And have this small role to introduce TV Land. But when I saw all of the equipment and the trucks and everything, and they were at HBO Studios downtown, I'm like, wow, wow, check this out. And I asked the guy, I'm like, how much do you curiosity, like, how much you get for this shoot? And he was like, $1,000 a day. I'm like, how long have you been doing this? He goes, 2 years. I went, what? So I was very enthralled.
Okay.
Plus, it was an opportunity to do something completely different. And by that point, I had worked on All My Children, Days of Our Lives. I had worked in TV.
You did the soap circuit.
I did the soap circuit.
Days of Our Lives.
I did.
My grandmother loves that show.
Yeah. I was usually like
Is she going to listen to this episode?
She's going to now.
She's going to watch this episode and then go back and watch all of your past episodes.
But I
probably recognize it.
I had worked with them for about 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. And so that was another introduction to, because there you have a wrangler. There you have a lot of production people that are working in order to maintain that show. And so the beauty of it is that you got to see them in action every single day. I would play. I had lived in London, or outside of London, in Richmond, on the north end of the District Line, which is the Tube, for about almost 3 years, and so I knew how to speak with a British dialect.
Okay.
And so when I got back to New York, they had said, "We'd like you to audition, and your agent says that you lived in London. Can you speak with a British dialect?" And I said, "Yes, I can." And so I did, and. It was like, "Hello, how are you today?" "All right, great." And we start talking like this, and it's very conversational,
yes.
And, blah, 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 blah.
It's not as common, I think, for Americans to do British accents. Much more common for
British to do American.
Yeah,
and
it's a little harder.
I've lost a lot of it. But when I first came back, people would say, "Are you from the UK?"
Did you work with a dialect coach?
No, it's just from living there and hearing it every day.
So it kind of affected how you spoke.
Yeah, in fact, I didn't recognize it until I came back to the States, and people were like, "Where are you from?" Like, even certain words that I say, I'll say schedule.
Yeah.
Are you a natural adapter?
I am.
I naturally adapt to however anyone is speaking, especially when I travel, and I pick up dialects very, very well. And I notice some people, sometimes you can move to a new country and you will keep that thick American accent your whole life. And then some other people, the day they arrive, they immediately will start to change the way they speak.
I wasn't that bad because one, I didn't want anybody to think that I was mocking them. Or
right.
They say it's called taking the piss. Mm-hmm. I didn't want them to think I was taking the piss out of them.
Yeah.
But because of living there, I started to pick it up, and I didn't realize it until after I got back that being in New York City, people were like, "Where are you from? Where?" It was completely different. Mm-hmm. So I got the gig at AMC, and they were like, "This is great," So I had that opportunity. So when I got the call from my buddy Lindsay, he was like, "Do you want to come live in LA?" I said, "Yeah." It was just a new opportunity. It was a new thing to go and do. Just like some people say, "Well, I'm shaking the dust of this little town and I'm going to wherever." I'm shaking the dust off of New York City and I'm going to Los Angeles, because it was a completely different environment, completely different mindset, but it was an opportunity to work. It was a crash course, per se, and it was very hard.
Well, yeah, because you're transitioning to two very different kind of worlds.
Yeah, first off, I have a car. Yeah. Secondly, I'm not taking mass transit, and everything that I knew that was within reach was not within reach.
Right.
Was 30 minutes down the 405 or the 1 or the 10 or the it was a completely different scenario.
Yeah.
We've ourselves talked about, where what does our future hold? Where are we going to be living? New York, LA. It's a conversation that we have. So what do you say to people that are in the film business, the business like us, that are thinking about making that transition?
You hear it a lot. Like I think people wrongly kind of use moving out to these places as like the cure-all for whatever they think, like, for their career. It's like, oh, I just move out to LA and then like everything just happens. Like you obviously had, like, your approach was so correct, it seems, in the sense of like, you were getting the work and that was kind of driving where you were placing yourself. And you know what I mean? It wasn't like, I would imagine you weren't the type of person that just thought, I'm going to move out to New York and it's going to happen. You know what I mean?
No. I was scared out of my mind when I got out there. And I had met a lot of people who moved to LA, spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars
and hated it.
retransitioning to there, hated it, did not fare well, and had to go back to wherever that last place was.
So what would you say to someone who is thinking about that?
I would say go. Here's the difference. When I moved there, it was the mid-90s.
Yeah.
Mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
Okay. Completely different time frame. There was a lot of different things. It was more of a necessity then than it is now. Now, with all of the film production that is done outside of those two major markets, whether it be New York, Los Angeles, if you're in Midwest film production, Chicago, and if you're in Southeast film production, Miami, for a lot of music videos and documentaries and Hallmark shows, stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's so much more opportunity around the country where films and shorts and episodics are being made that I don't think you have to go there. I would say this to anyone: if you want to, I'm saying this to the camera. If you want to work on feature film, and you are the Pixar person, and you want to know about CG and how they make it happen, California, by all means. If you're doing independents and shorts, and you just want to work on some films and maybe some episodics, stay where you are. You can learn just as much, if not more, because you will not be strapped with the financial burden of transitioning to a new city. You will have the opportunity to learn and possibly get the right camera, the right lighting, the right rigging, the right sound, the right whatever, because you won't have to worry about next month's rent for your crappy little apartment
sky high
in West Hollywood.
Especially if you
Studio
go
apartment.
alone.
Right.
Especially if you're going, you don't know
alone.
anyone, you don't have a support system there, you're not going to be living with other people. Yeah. I've heard, either goes really, really well or really badly.
And here's the thing. When I got there, I reached out to everybody that I knew, which was 7 people. But those 7 people put me in touch with the other 200 people that I eventually met. I don't know if it was 200, but there was a community that I walked into. This wasn't me going out there and you hear all these stories of these success stories about, they landed in LA with
$7
in their pocket.
They had
and
no place to live, and they happened to walk out of the airport, and there was Steven Spielberg, and they gave him their next job.
Right.
That's happened like one time.
Yeah. And it's very, very rare. There has to be a community, or there has to be some type of support system that you go to. It doesn't matter what market you go to. There has to be that. Otherwise, you will find yourself spinning a lot of wheels and wasting a lot of time.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
that's fantastic.
I still do want to talk about the shows that you've done, but
Sure.
I was wondering, before we talk about this, what was that transition like from being mainly a theater guy for a very long time and then going to LA and focusing on film and cinematography? What was that transition like for you?
It was welcoming for me. For others, I think it would have. I had 2 friends that were in Los Angeles around the same time that were both thespians with the theater.
Yeah.
And they went out, and I said, okay, reel it back. Like, we're not broadcasting to the person 400 rows back. The camera is about right here. So all this extravagant acting that you're doing, you need to reel it in and bring it down to micro. And for a lot of folks, that was really hard. I used the same mentality, though, that I did when I got into production. What I did not know, I would find out about. And I didn't have Google and all of that kind of nonsense. It was like picking up a copy of Variety or Backstage West and taking a look and going, where's the latest acting class? Can I get on a film shoot? I did so many horrendous independent films that went absolutely nowhere. Yeah. And it was like Weekend Warrior stuff. But the difference is that 1, possibly 2 people outside of the director or camera operator or DP knew what they were doing on the shoot. And so I would gravitate towards them and I would ask them, how do you do this? Why do you do this? Why do you use a light meter? Like, why do you, like all of these things. And even though I didn't financially have the ability to go out and purchase these items, I did learn about them. And so that was an invaluable experience. But again, it came back to I just want to try this. and I'm going to listen to you with as much intent and thought and absorb as much of it as I can in the 1.5 to 6 minutes we have while I'm sucking down coffee and everybody's on their 10-minute sag break.
Yeah.
Yes.
To ask you about, why do you do this? And some people were like, yeah, whatever, dude, go pound sand. Others, though, were like, wow, this actor really has an interest in what I'm doing, creepy as it may be, you know, but he has a genuine interest. And so once they realized that I was not trying to stalk them, that I wanted to learn what they knew, they were willing to teach me. And so again, that's where that attitude, that positive attitude comes into play.
I'm sure you stood out because, you know, I'm sure there are a lot of people that want to learn and they just ask how you do something and they don't ask why. And that why can be just as important. Why did you make that choice? Why did you use this? Why did you do that? That can be so important.
Because that why got me other jobs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The opportunity to ask not only how do you do that, but why do you do that? Of questioning, of trying to gain knowledge and insight from them. That made the difference. That was what made the difference, I think, for me. And it wasn't anything that anybody told me. I was genuinely interested. I genuinely wanted to know, why is it that you do that? And how does that better the picture or the project?
Yes.
So...
Okay, so I do want to talk about West Side Story really quick. Because I just have, because it's like my favorite. And
all right, so I have an interesting story about West Side. I had auditioned for the show. Jeffrey Dunn was the director. It was the first Euro tour that a company called Scala Theater, Theater is the German word for theater, had put together. And it was this big Euro tour. France, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, like everywhere, okay? I didn't get hired. The guy that they hired for the male swing to understudy, 3 different roles, which was Bernardo Riff and Chino.
Chino.
Yeah. He got sick. And so Jeffrey Dunn calls me at my home, which I thought was odd. He's a big time, Broadway producer. And he was like, hi, is this Michael? I'm like, yeah, who's this? He goes, oh, hi, this is Jeffrey Dunn. I'm with the Euro tour of West Side. I'm like, okay. He goes, what are you doing tomorrow? I don't know. You tell me. You tell me what I'm doing. And he goes, well, I'd like you to come down and the cast is rehearsing. Can you be at studio at 10 a.m.? I'm like, yeah, you don't want me there any earlier? And he goes, no, 10's good. 10's fine. So I show up at 9:45.
Right.
I'm like, doing this. And I go in and he said, okay, our swing is persona non grata. He's out. So I thought, well, why didn't you cast me in the first place? But then he said, you weren't. This guy was 6 foot.
Okay.
And I'm only 5'11". So I said, okay, well, I guess an inch makes a difference. Whatever, So I said, okay. And we do the dance. I had just learned the dance last week. I did the dance, and I did it with the cast.
What dance?
It was the dance at the gym.
Oh.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So dun, 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 and it has the whole thing, right? So we do this whole dance, and I get paired with this woman who is the dance captain. I didn't realize, and I'm like,
no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. And so we finish. Everybody applauds. And they weren't applauding for me. They were applauding because it's the end of the dance. And the dance captain came over and she goes, that was amazing. I went, oh, okay. All right, cool. So they pull me into the hallway from where they're rehearsing. And he says, we have a contract here. We were interested if you would like to join us. And I went, oh, yeah, that would be fantastic. And he goes, okay, well, are you okay with this figure? And it was like $200 less than what it would take to maintain my apartment. and bills and like everything else. And I said, yeah, listen, I said, man, I really appreciate this. This is awesome. Thank you so much. I can't do it for this. And he was like, what do you mean? And I said, well, my apartment is this and my monthly cost is this. So that's where the business aspect came in.
Right. Okay.
It was like, okay,
Yeah.
there's a reality check here.
Yeah.
Here's a contract.
It's a great opportunity.
It's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
It's a year-long tour, or right over a year and 2 months. But I can't live. If I were to live in Manhattan and maintain my apartment, and this show was working in Manhattan, I wouldn't be able to pay my rent. And he goes, well, what do you need? And I said, well, what I need is $400 more a week. And he went, done. Put the line, wrote it in. Or no, it was $200 more a week because I wanted to make the 200 plus a little bit of additional money. And he was like, done. I'm like, okay. He goes, now here's the thing. I need you on location. Or no, I need you to wrap everything up in New York City by 7:15 tonight and be at JFK Airport to fly to Basel, Switzerland. And I went, oh, okay.
So did you know it was?
I had no idea.
Okay, right. So that when
No
you heard
clue.
that,
He asked me 2 questions.
Oh, Switzerland.
Do you have a passport? And I said, yeah, I got a passport.
luckily.
He goes, how long is it valid for? I said, another 6 years. He goes, golden. He goes, do you have cash? And I said, how much? And he goes, I need you to get to the airport and I need you to wrap up your life. He handed me a $100 bill and he was like, go do your thing, bring your contract, pack a bag. So I wrapped up my life. I left their audition at 12:30. And I was standing for a red eye to Basel, Switzerland at 7:15 at JFK.
What a day.
Can I ask you, for you, and you're like, okay, I have to wrap up my life. What does that mean? Like, what do you go off and do?
I called my agent. This was the first thing I did. I called my agent. I got a gig. And I'm traveling to Basel, Switzerland tonight. She was like, tonight? And I said, yeah, I'm leaving tonight. And she goes, how much? And I told her, and she goes, how'd you manage that? And I said, well, I had a little bit of leverage. They needed somebody. Because otherwise they would have had to book somebody.
To do the whole thing. They got to go.
The director would have had to stay behind, or the associate director or associate producers would have had to stay behind, hire somebody, and it might not have been the person that they wanted.
Right.
So I got the gig. I get there. I got a polo bag that's like an overnight bag that somebody bought me as a birthday gift, like jammed with clothes and toiletries and whatnot. And so we toured France, Italy, Spain, Germany, Denmark, Brussels. Like we went to all these crazy places.
Wow.
Switzerland, we were in Milano. And
Did you go to the La Scala, the theater in Milan?
yes, I did.
You performed there?
Yeah, we performed at La Scala. Yeah,
I walked in and it was amazing. And I couldn't afford the seats because it was $600 for the night, and you know, I just couldn't. But that's amazing. So the venues you were performing were the top venues in the entire world.
Some were the top venues. Some were holes in the wall. Like some of the places we went to, it looked like a school gymnasium.
Yeah.
It was whatever the booker had booked. But a lot of the places we played were really, really nice. Some were dumps, you know. But it was an opportunity to work. So I put my service on hold because nobody had cell phones back then. You know, it was the early 90s.
Fair enough.
Put my service on hold. Called the woman that I was dating and said, I got a gig. She was like, great, when do you leave? I said, tonight. And she was like, I don't want to speak to you. And I went, okay. And then she goes, and then the phone goes silent. And I'm thinking, please say something for the love of God. Please say something. And she was like, I'll see you in 2 hours. And so I went to her apartment up on the Upper West Side, and she gave me a gift, and she gave me some cash, and she goes, I love you, bye.
Did you ever see her again?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw her. Yeah, I saw her when I got back. They had a party for me.
That's
Oh.
right.
Yeah, they had a party
You weren't
for me.
like, see ya, and then you just...
No, I didn't ghost. No ghosting, yeah.
No ghosting.
Yeah, no ghosting, yeah.
It's just like
That's
that
incredible.
in itself is an adventure story.
It was an adventure.
An adventure
But the
tale.
beauty of it was when I didn't get the job the first time, I went and auditioned for RCCL,
Mm-hmm.
Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. They offered me a contract when I was in Bordeaux in the south of France at the Nouveau Beaujolais tasting. I got a fax of all things.
It was very haughty, the way you just said that.
Yeah, well, it was funny. We were at this wine tasting, and the gentleman comes up and he goes, "Excusez-moi, avez-vous d'oranger, monsieur?" And I'm like, "Oui." "Excuse me for bothering you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I realize I'm speaking French, and they're like, "What the heck is
You
that?"
can say the rest of the entire conversation in French if you want.
He said, "You have a facsimile?" And I said, "Okay." And it was a contract. And it was a contract with RCCL to start the following year, 3 weeks after I finished my tour with Westside. And so I negotiated that because I'm like, I'm on a roll.
Yeah, right.
So in France, doing West Side Story, you're speaking French, you're negotiating.
I'm negotiating
your
with
contract.
the executive or with the production director for RCCL. And she was like, "We'd like to hire you as a male swing for dance and vocal, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Okay, fantastic." And this is the rate. And I said, "Well, I have this apartment in New York." Same story. I have this apartment in New York, and, I want to maintain it.
Just get an
blah, blah,
even
blah.
bigger, better apartment in New York.
Yeah.
Like, why have this
Well, it was funny
$45,000
because
a month apartment in New York?
I had to take into consideration I could sublet my apartment, and it was a rent-controlled apartment, but I wasn't sure if I would be able to get somebody. So I'm like, well, if I don't find anybody, then I have to pay for my apartment.
May I ask?
Yeah.
I'm always curious to what people's rent was. At what
So
year
when
was
I
it?
moved,
What was the rent?
when I moved to Manhattan, this was 1987, 88. Yeah. My apartment in Manhattan, my rent-controlled apartment in Manhattan was $450 a month, and it was a 600 square foot studio.
So
It
not
was
huge.
rent-controlled. Yeah, no, it was a box. I
Yeah.
lived in a box.
But still, that would be like $1,500 a month to $2,000.
It would be
Wait,
$2,000.
what was the location?
It was Midtown. I was on 41st between 9th and 10th.
Rent-controlled.
Rent-controlled.
I shouldn't have given that up.
No, I shouldn't.
Rent control does not exist
Well,
anymore.
the building got bought, and the
okay.
new landlord and management company were trying to get everybody out. So
Right.
when I gave it up, I had been in that place for over 10 years, and he was like, "Yeah," he was like, "Get on out," And we had adjustment cost and a couple of other things that came into place. So when I left, though, I was paying $800.
That's still nothing.
Yeah, it was
crazy.
nothing. It was nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
And so they were very glad to see me go.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, I was a good tenant, but they were just
It's just
happy
about- it's
because
about
it was
the
about the
money.
money.
Right.
And so, and there was another reason too. I was like, I had done all of the things that I wanted to accomplish in Manhattan.
Yeah.
So when I moved to LA, it was like, okay, here's the new chapter. This is the new thing that I get to do.
Mm-hmm.
So you did Royal Caribbean, and then when did Hair come in?
So, West Side, 90 to 91. 91, all of 91, Song of America, Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. I was supposed to go to Nashville because I was dating this woman and I was foolish. And so I moved to Nashville, was there 3 months, wound up not getting a job with Opry, or at the Opryland, not Opry, Opryland. Got booked on Nordic Empress. That would have put me at 92, beginning of 92, February. Worked with them till 93, had 10 days off, went back onto Monarch of the Seas for another 1-year contract. Beginning of 94, went back to Manhattan, was there 4 weeks, got booked with Greg Thompson Productions to do the show called Rockin' America, which was like Bryan Adams and all these like 90s rock guys. So I was singing and dancing, and I was the lead singer for that. And we did an Asia tour through Hong Kong, China, Thailand. I think that was it. Japan. Finished that. Oh, no, I'm sorry. 93. I left RCCL. I went to do my first tour of Hair
Yeah.
with Jim Rado, the original writer. Then I went to China for Greg Thompson Productions, got back from that, got booked on a second tour with Hair, because I had 16 inches of hair by that
What
time.
did you play?
I was the male swing for that. I was the burger understudy,
Okay.
and went on as burger, and then I was the dance captain.
I wanted to talk about this because we just interviewed Rod Gilkison of the Pennsylvania Playhouse.
Yeah.
So I've definitely had theater on the brain. I don't know. Have you seen Hair?
No.
So can you tell a very brief synopsis of what Hair is?
So it's the American Rock Tribal Musical is basically what it's considered, and it was written by two writers, James Rado and Jerome Ragney. I'm not sure if James is still alive. Jerome Ragney had passed some time ago. But basically, it is all of the social and political influences of the late 60s that come about. And the premise is this young man, Claude, is going off to war. He's enlisted. And he falls in with a bunch of hippies in Washington Square Park in downtown Manhattan. And his views completely change. He has this proper lifestyle and proper upbringing, and he realizes through these people that there's so much more to the world. And they're about free love and peace and happiness, but they're also about not having this guy go to be killed.
Yeah.
And so, in a turn of events, the leader of the hippie group, who's trying to help his new friend out, gets caught or gets sucked in because he's portraying him. They shave his head, they put him in army greens, and they ship him off to Vietnam at the end of the film.
Yeah, which is an incredibly emotional scene.
Yeah.
That being shipped off, and I said that I saw it on Broadway with some friends when I was actually 15. I thought I was 16. So I saw it when I was 15, and I thought I was going to see Hairspray.
Nice.
So very
different.
Very different. I
Very
thought
different
I was ready. I watched the movie beforehand like twice. I was like ready to go. I was honestly so excited, and then I got there, and then it was like not Hairspray at all, and then.
It was even better.
It was even better. It was really amazing. But the one thing that I didn't know was a thing was nudity on Broadway. I didn't know that was something at all.
I didn't know that
so
was a
being
thing
15 years old and then like everyone on stage just gets naked and all the men are just naked in front of you, and that's just something I'd like never experienced before, and they're like basically coming out at you, and I was like, wow, this is absolutely and singing, and it wasn't like a sexual thing at all either. It was not a sexual moment either. So I didn't know that there could be nudity in theater without it being sexual. All of those different things coming together. It was really incredible. So what was it like filming those scenes?
Well, we weren't filming.
No, sorry.
We were doing, no, that's okay. No.
I was like performing.
The first time we did the theatrical performance, it's a little overwhelming because what you would do is the music is going on, and we would have an actual parachute without any of the strings attached, and it goes, we stop, look at one another, short of breath, time, and they start singing that whole song. And then it's the three girls that come in to do the 3-part harmony on it. And as we go underneath it's the end of the first act, as we go underneath this parachute.
It's like when you were a little
this mad
kid
dash
and you went like
to
that with the
get rid of
parachute.
all your clothes.
Right. Okay.
And what we realized is that it wasn't so much about we're standing here naked in front of an audience. This is an act of defiance and solidarity as we are standing as one for a movement, for a cause. And even though Vietnam has long passed, the social injustices that happen in the world today, yesteryear, or 20 years from now, there will always be that group that stands up and says, no, I will not accept this. And so that feeling is what a lot of us had when we were doing the show. I will not accept this. I will not accept the political climate as it is. I don't agree with it. And you will listen to me because in this country at 18, I have the right to vote.
Wow.
And I am a voice to be heard.
It gives me chills just remembering everything.
So that was sort of
emotional.
our mindset when we were doing it, and we would do the show every night, And some nights, obviously, you know, after you're doing this for about 6-7 months, you're kind of like, oh, we're getting naked again. Okay, you know. But no matter how...
Well, you were also touring in Europe, right?
We were touring Europe.
So it's in Europe.
It was a
it's
much different
more,
mindset.
Yeah.
It was a much different mindset. I think it was a little bit more shocking to the American audiences.
Oh,
in Europe, they were like, hey, we'll join you.
Yeah,
we had
it's just
people
like-
that were actually in the audience who would take off their clothes and stand up.
You're kidding.
No. So
little
interesting
audience
story though about this. Zagreb, Croatia. It is 1993.
Mm-hmm.
We performed for 17,000 people at their stadium. At 2 o'clock in the morning, my tour manager is at a Croatian bar looking for me and 2 other cast members because we were out drinking with these young ladies that we had met who were very nice and decided to show us the town. And that's all I'll say about that. The reason that she came to find us, and the reason that I had to hightail it back to the hotel, and the reason that we left Zagreb, Croatia at 2 a.m. in the morning to arrive back in Munich, Germany at 8:30 is because the hotel, the Coliseum where we had performed, the pizza place where I had eaten, were completely obliterated. They were bombed at 6 a.m. that morning.
Wow.
So they were about to be bombed.
They were about to be bombed.
And how did they know that?
NATO and First Marine, I think it was either First Marine Division or there was a military presence. I'm not sure if it was infantry regiment or First Marine Division that was there. There was a notification that was sent out and said, if you are a foreign correspondent or a foreign visitor, or if you are doing business as a foreign entity in the city of Zagreb, please leave. And so we got rounded up. I got on a bus at 2 a.m. and I watched on CNN at 8:30 in the morning when we got back to Munich, Germany, 6.5 hours of hightailing it to Germany, to the southern portion of Germany, the place where I ate, the place where we performed, the club where we were dancing 6.5 hours before and drinking was gone.
Oh my God.
Gone. Completely obliterated. It was blown to hell.
Do you know who did that?
It was Bosnian and Serbia. So they were having conflict within this area between the Serbs and the Bosnian people. Croatia got involved. Zagreb was the hot button city because of the religious and political differences between the communities there. And they bombed the hell out of it. It did.
Wow.
And so we had such a high from that performance because what we lacked from our own perspective, we gave to those people this right that we had as a touring company from America. They saw those people stood up. Yes, it's a dramatic presentation in a theatrical play, but that really did happen in the United States. That really did happen in a time of war, and that really did happen for a lot of the exact same reasons that we, as citizens of Croatia and Zagreb, whether we're Bosnian or Serbian or Czech or Turkish or whatever, are fighting for. The exact same thing that we are fighting for, they have done. This is the physical representation of it. And because of that strife and because of that political climate, their city was leveled.
So absolutely tragic, but
it was absolutely tragic.
Oddly appropriate for the show that you were
oddly
doing
appropriate
at that
for the
time.
show.
The parallels.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's crazy that all kind of converged at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, what more of a...
So that was a real wake-up call for a lot of us of like the power of this one show, this one company, and what we can provide. Because you want to talk about being stalked? We felt like we were a rock band or some kind of like famous people because literally we had people who were clamoring against our dressing room windows. Women, men for the girls' side, women for our side, men for our side, women for the other side. Yeah. Like it's just, there was such fanaticism. And not because, it was a good show and we did a really nice performance, but because of the message that we brought,
what you represented,
those people were like, I want to touch you. I want to be a part of you. Please take me with you because I'm in a hellhole here and whatnot. And so that was a real eye-opening experience for us. And for me as a performer to say, wow, this has such impact, the message.
It's one of the biggest shows that speaks the most to people throughout time. Yeah. Because it's been going, how long has it been running?
So the original show was put up in 1969.
Yeah, so a very long time.
So we're looking at 79, 89, 2009, 2019, 50 years. So
I think it's amazing how your response, and I would assume your troupe as well, to that was not. I think the first thing I would think of that you would in that situation would be like, oh, look at what we're doing compared to what's going on, and like the disparity and the importance of those things. Like what I'm doing isn't important. Like look at how real this is going on. But instead, like I think it's amazing the perspective that it did impress, which is the actual opposite. It is so important what you're doing. You know what I mean? As look at what's going on. It is so important to be carrying this message across, these places.
Right.
I think that's amazing.
And it resonated. And it did resonate with the people there, which made it was a true return of investment for us. Yeah. We had given this part of our soul and the performance to this group. They in turn came back to us and were like, we love you, and this speaks volumes to what is currently happening with our geopolitical climate right now. And so it was over the top.
It's amazing. So it's amazing.
Yeah.
Michael.
That's incredible.
It's been a ride. It's been a journey for sure, getting to sit down and talk to you.
Thanks.
I think we're coming. We could talk, I'm sure, about your timeline forever.
Him, so do you mind coming back?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Do you mind if he comes back another day?
I will say this in summation, because there was one other show that I had the opportunity to do, and that was Jesus Christ Superstar. It was the Judas Company First AD tour across North America and Canada. Again, prolific show. A lot of meaning to it, a lot of strife. Certain religious groups were not very pleased. We were putting Jesus on a cross. They were just not down with that.
No.
I will say this and recap on everything, though. For whether you're a film student, whether you're an actor, whether you are a thespian in the performing arts, or you are looking at some type of viaduct for production, you have to address it with a can-do attitude. You have to address it with, I want to do this. You have to, I have been doing this, working behind a camera since 2003 on a professional level and editing. I have been working in front of a camera since 1973. I still watch tutorials. I still try to learn. You never stop. And the second you do is the second that you discredit yourself for this business. That's the second that you say, I have no more interest in doing this as an entertainer, as a filmmaker, as a performer, as whatever. And I think that's the biggest takeaway that I want to impart to the viewers and to anybody who's listening to this, is that you have to continuously educate yourself and be willing to learn. And willing to accept that maybe I don't know everything.
Education doesn't have to come from a classroom, but it can't ever stop.
It can't ever stop.
Yeah.
So that will probably be the biggest takeaway.
Wow.
Thank you for your words of wisdom.
Thank you
for having me.
We're going to have a lot of sound bites to be able to post about
There's so
this.
much.
I'm just thinking so much of like the value that this is going to offer so many different people
that need to hear a lot of what was talked about, for sure.
This is like already one of my favorite shows that we've done this year.
Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you so much for sitting down with us and talking. It's been amazing. If there's anything you'd like to plug, if there's anything you'd like to...
For whatever camera is recording or for whatever is recording, if you want to know more about me, you can take a look at mojotalent.com or michaelpatrickowen.com.
And this has been the Poorly Edited Podcast. Signing out. Thanks so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.